Good evening and welcome. My name is Megha Iyer, Associate Editor of EPR Magazine, and I welcome you all to an interactive power talk on maintenance strategies to improve power plant safety. My colleague, Ms. Ria, is with us here to introduce the panelists and to moderate the session. Welcome, Ria.
Thank you, Megha. India's power plant are facing significant challenges when it comes to efficiency. The country's power sector is dominated by coal-fired power plants, responsible for a large share of India's greenhouse gas emissions. These plants are often old and poorly maintained, resulting in lower efficiency and higher emissions. In addition, India's power infrastructure needs to be improved with large percentage of the population needing access to reliable electricity. To address these challenges, the Indian government has set ambitious target for increasing renewable energy capacity and improving the efficiency of existing power plants. We must also operate reliably and efficiently to ensure a stable power supply. However, power plant performance can be affected by various factors, including equipment failure, lack of maintenance, and insufficient operation. Keeping this plan in mind, EPR Magazine is conducting this online live power talk on maintenance strategies to improve power plant safety. Our distinguished panelists will provide us with insights on the importance of maintenance in ensuring power plant safety, common safety risk associated with it, safety training and education for maintenance personnel, role of technology in improving power plant safety, safety audits and inspections to ensure compliance with regulation and standards, and many more. The distinguished speakers for today's online interaction are Mr. Sanjeev Prasad, Vice President and Plant Head for Power and Utilities from RIL DMD, Mr. Vineet Priyadarshi, Account Manager of Operating Asset Solution Portfolio from Black& Veitch, Mr. Subrata Das, Power Plant Consultant from SSSD India.
Mr. Sanjeev, I would like to start with you. So you spoke about the safety. So my question to you is the another way around, which is how can power plants balance the need for routine maintenance by keeping up the need to maintain the operations and efficient generation from the power plants?
When your equipments are healthy, obviously your generations will be efficient or your operation will be efficient. Efficiency of operation, it all comes from definitely, yes, it comes from the way in which you operate. And with Mr. Vineet being there with Black & Veitch, he can tell you more about performance monitoring. He is the one who is more into efficiency, but it's more about how you operate it. If you operate it well, if you operate it safely, yes, it becomes cheaper. It becomes cheaper because cost of maintenance happens to be very high. And if you don't do it properly, yes, your cost will go on increasing.
So you're suggesting that the collaboration of plant operators with the equipment manufacturers and suppliers can potentially improve the efficiency and reliability of the maintenance process?
Not exactly. See, it is more about how you manage the data that is available with you, how you manage the history that is available with you. See, what most of the performance management processes that are there, what they do is they collect the data, they analyze as to what is happening, they analyze as to what is going wrong. Even if you are operating or maintaining things on your own, you need to analyze your own data and understand where have things gone wrong. It is not about what has happened yesterday. It is about looking at it, how that will not happen again. What will you do? How much more can you predict? What all you can cover between outages? See, basically an equipment is operated best when it starts when you need it, when it stops when you want it to. Means it does not trip and there are no interruptions in between. That indicates that your operating processes are in control, your maintenance is in control.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. Mr. Vineet, what are your views and your suggestions on this aspect?
Absolutely subscribe to Mr. Sanjeev's remark. I mean, as he rightly said, when it comes to performance, it starts with a very good data keeping. The healthier the data, the better is your ability to measure the performance and then to improve upon. once you have set the baseline. And that goes for safety also. So you have a certain baseline like lost time injury rate, near misses, and against each and every incident you want to learn, how you can prevent or avoid such an occurrence, and then you want to lower it down in the near future. So absolutely in agreement with Mr. Sanjeev's remark on this.
Thank you, Mr. Vinay. You also mentioned of leakages and controlling them through real-time monitoring. So how far are techniques such as vibration analysis, thermography, and oil analysis used by the operation and maintenance experts to identify and curtail the early signs of equipment deterioration and their malfunction?
So uh, maybe I can share my experience. If you look at maintenance, we have three maintenance regimes. One is what we call as a breakdown maintenance or run to fail time. The other is preventive maintenance, and the third one is predictive. And nowadays, people are talking about risk centered maintenance, RCM. What you have just highlighted, vibration monitoring, infrared thermography, or acoustics, they are part of predictive maintenance too. In most of the power stations, to my knowledge, I've seen them implementing this. At least vibration for critical equipment is always there in most of the power stations. Infrared thermography happens depending upon the instance, any particular situation where they suspect any leakage or some thermal losses happening. Other techniques like lube oil analysis, wear debris analysis, motor current analysis, they are seen in bits and pieces. Not all stations are really focusing on these technologies, though they have enormous potential in terms of avoiding any unsafe situation and keeping your equipment, you can say, in a healthy condition. So I would say, as far as Indian power sector is concerned, we have seen some maturity in this maintenance regime. Like now we are focusing more on predictive side of the maintenance, which in a way is avoidance of any failure using state-of-the-art tools. And that's a welcome development. In utilities, especially in Europe and US, what we see, there is a trend wherein a lot of these so-called field measured devices have now become real-time measuring devices. So vibration analyzers, we have real-time vibration analyzers, which are also giving you all type of plots to analyze what is the amplitude, which level of vibration is going on. Similarly, boiler tube leakages, we are seeing acoustic systems quite popular in various power stations. So they can basically detect such tube leakages at a very early stage, and then it will alert the operator. So we may go with a planned shutdown, safe shutdown, rather than going into a panicky situation and creating unsafe situation. So yes, we have gone a long way. There is still some milestones to be conquered.
Thank you, Mr. Vineet, for sharing this experience about the technical analysis with these monitoring systems. Mr. Subrata, you have been into consulting. So, how do you look at this perspective, implementing these conditional monitoring systems to improve the power plant's performance and their maintenance?
I understand this is mandatory to all power plants. Condition monitoring is compulsory, and unless they do condition monitoring in a very close way, they cannot maintain the plant. It is a compulsory thing, mandatory thing. No discussion required on this.
Yes, sir. And how can power plant operators optimize their repair and maintenance processes to keep the operations going?
See, there in power plant, there will be three departments. One is, of course, the person who are coming in shifts. They're actually driving the car. Another will be the maintenance staff who will be supporting him. And third will be the planners who will be really planning the things. So these three persons should work together, and one staff should be following the planners. they should be following the planners. Now, planners, what they are supposed to do, they are supposed to guide the operation man, what hit rate they will maintain, how much load they will maintain. There could be preset things. When it's in the next shift, this will be the ambient temperature. This is a coil quality you are going to get. And probably this is a load requirement. This is much load is to be produced. So he maintain everything in the, he prepare a model on it. And the operation man has to follow it. And he becomes tension free. So I am given a task, I have to follow this task. That's it. Then maintenance person also, the planner will give a direction to maintenance staff. Because this is equipment will be under shutdown or may go for shutdown. So with the best of condition monitoring system, you please take up those maintenance. So planning will tell him. So this is how it should work. So if this is to be done in a very disciplined way, and discipline means a pre-planned way, then I understand safety will be automatically established.
Thank you, Mr. Subrata, for highlighting that. Mr. Sanjeev, during this discussion, we also touched upon incorporating renewable energy sources into power plant operations. So, what will be the unique maintenance challenges during this incorporation and this integration?
Yes, Ms. Megha, you're looking for an answer from me. Sorry, I missed it. So you are looking at the maintenance challenges that are there.
Yes, sir.
See, we are into a world whereby everything is like everyone wants to do things at the lowest cost. So while protecting the cost, without that, no business runs. Okay, whether we like it or not, businesses are there and they survive because they make money. If they don't make money, they will not be able to survive. There are different ways in which those businesses may do it. Some may cut some shortcuts, some may not, but all may not do it the same way around. Yes, best recommended way would be if you look at your car, there are certain routines. At 10,000 kilometers, you are supposed to get it serviced. So similarly, you have got certain replacements that are supposed to be done. They are based on conditions that you are supposed to do. Or the other way around is you operate to failure. So many choose to operate to failure. You do not replace things. So these are standard things that exist around the world. And that's why, see, Mr. Subrata was smiling on all this, because that's what gives business to the consultants. Okay, that is where the consultants will get in. That is bread and butter. But yes, people do it. That's truth of the day. It's not that I'm not trying to say that something goes wrong, but yes, people operate that way, but that is not the most optimized way of working. While optimizing cost also, you need to look at as to what costs can be optimized and what cannot be. Certain costs cannot be compromised, and you need to spend that money out. You cannot defer that spending. So render your operations safe. You need to do all those things on time. So your strategy should be you prioritize, you do first things first, you address what is going down. You do not allow and go and operate, say a simple example, maybe I'll go slightly technical into it, say a thinning of tubes of boilers. The tubes may have thinned down below the minimum levels, but you want to operate even after that. So you are putting lives at risk. So you have to do first things first and then solve them one by one. Solving something else, say maybe a tap water leakage or replacing a wash basin or repairing your administrative block, may be something that may go secondary. But primarily your bread and butter is coming from the boiler itself. You need to take care of the tube. So you have to make those strategies. Yes, a large role gets into in terms of planning, which plans and tells you as to what is supposed to be done, when is it supposed to be done, what is the duration within which it is supposed to be done.
Then do you think that integrating renewable energy sources into these power plants and their maintenance strategies will help is in some way for us to curtail these cost complications?
Not exactly. See, they are you have mixed two different domains. So as you get into renewables are not that as maintenance prone as our traditional power plants are. They do not have as much of maintenance requirements. Their maintenance requirements are much lesser. Okay. Yes, they need certain care that may be at a minimum level. Establishing them or establishing renewable energy systems. Yes, they are costly, but subsequently the maintenance requirements are lower. Frequencies of maintenance are like gaps are, but it's not as high as it is in a conventional power plant. Conventional power plant requires much more maintenance. See, I can tell you, say, for a large power plant, say large solar unit, you hardly need any people. Yes, on the other way around, it is like if you look at it, there is a loss of employment. If you start generating a lot of solar power, lot of renewable power, it happens to be in remote areas. So you cannot, these two are not exactly comparable in terms of maintenance strategies if you look at them.
Yes, sir. The initial cost that we do, the initial inputs in terms
That
of
is why
financing.
government is subsidizing it. That is why government is promoting it. Otherwise, nobody will put money into renewables.
Yes, sir. Thank you for addressing that, sir. Mr. Vineet, how do you look at it? And how do you think that the power plant operators are coping up with this competing demands of cost effectiveness and reliability when planning the operational maintenance and the safety activity?
Yeah, so maybe I'll pick up this question in two parts. One about the general O&M, that we see in power plants, and there is always a baseline. You talk to any power plant owner, and they have a cost of generation, and largely, the cost of generation is driven by variable cost, which in a way is driven by the cost of coal that they are procuring. What is in their control is basically the efficiency of the equipment and ensure that the running is as efficient so that variable cost gets reduced. Fixed cost is always fixed, as the name suggests. So in this type of a paradigm, as Mr. Sanjeev also said, businesses are expected to save on a lot of fronts, whether it comes to their O&M expenditure, whether it comes to their planned versus actual uh, expenditures and so on. So we see this being common in India also. So every year you have a target, you have a budget which is lower than the preceding year, and then you are chasing a sort of a indefinite run wherein you want to optimize your cost to the lowest level, and while you also want to improve your system to the highest level. Sometimes it is contradictory. So if you look at the maintenance curve and the cost curve, so yes, as you do effective maintenance, your overall cost of generation will go down. But if you reduce your maintenance beyond or below a certain threshold, then actually your cost of generation will go up, because then you will be having surprises like any catastrophic equipment failure or very unsafe operation. And one incident will actually jeopardize your entire saving that you have made for the year. There are legal costs, there are insurance risks, there are what I would say, your social, you can say, image that is now at stake. So I think the business has to cope up with all these challenges. Obviously, cost is one driver, but at the same time, now they are part of a larger stakeholder, so they have to look everything in that way. The other piece that you mentioned about the renewable. So yeah, so what I'm saying that renewable O&M is a relatively straightforward process, because there you have very specific activities, and normally you need semi-skilled worker, not a specialized worker that you need in conventional power station. Analysis need is limited. Equipments are static, mostly electrical in nature, so your hazards are also electrical in nature. You have DC current, you have AC current, you have combiner boxes, and so on. So these two, uh, type of power generation technologies cannot be compared directly. So they run on a different cost matrix. Renewable, conventional run on a different cost matrix, driven by fuel, actually driven by the fuel cost. So that is what I wanted to highlight. And eventually what we see as Black and Veatch, now I'm talking in the parlance of Black and Veatch, that on some day we will see a large chunk of renewable essentially displacing conventional plant. But conventional plant would still be there in the grid. They are required to be there. they are required for grid stability. So we might be seeing somewhere like 50% conventional capacity, and then a large chunk of renewable, and then the one complemented by some energy storage technologies like pumped storage or battery energy, whichever is competitive. So that's how we see, and power plants are expected to be now respond to this transition. You might be aware of the CEA regulation, which is now talking about flexibilization of the coal plant, and we are extensively working in that area with various stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vineet. Mr. Subrata, would you like to add something to Mr. Vineet's views on this?
Renewable, of course, whenever Mr. Vineet told, solar is very simple. It's modular, yes. It really cannot be directly compared with conventional coal-based power plants. If you really want to compare between the renewables and a conventional coal-based power plant, then we can talk about biomass power plants. Biomass power plants can be comparable to small coal-based power plants. Because biomass are always small size, cannot be eaten. So biomass will be small. Now the biomass, the main attraction to the biomass is the cost of fuel. Cost of fuel is very cheap and locally available, and landed cost of fuel is very low. The boiler efficiency, of course, it matters, but it's not a decision-making point. So if nowadays, Government of India is made compulsory that all coal power plants to run at least 5 to 7% biomass. So everybody is now trying to reduce that cost. That 5 to 7% fuel cost is being explored for reduction. So if that is done in whatever method it is, then it will be successful. It will be very much. Currently, it is high. It should be lower down. But one more point which comes in my mind, which I want to share here, large coal-based power plant, if they can have a biomass-based plant, whatever biomass is available locally, and produce power, the heated at a lower capacity, they say 25 megawatt, 50 megawatt, whatever, and then feed for the auxiliary power. Supply the auxiliary power to the main plant. That also can be thought of. This would be one of the solutions. Whether it is cost effective or not, that is to be seen. That's not yet seen. But instead of firing of 5 to 7% biomass with coal, this is also another alternative. That is what I wanted to point in this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Subrata, for pointing these things and sharing them with us. I would like to ask one question to all our panelists, which is that how far at today's scenario are we compliant with the need to conduct regular safety audits and complying with the regulations on a regular to maintain the optimum performance and the safety of power plants? How far are we complying to the laws in terms of audits and in terms of standards?
When you talk of audits, standards, or whatever you are asking for, there are many things which are mandated by regulation. Okay, so regulatory requirements, nobody is there who will not meet. Okay. Other than that, if you look at, we do not have a structure, still the government does not have a structure at this place which asks for as many safety audits. It is not mandated on people to have safety audits on periodic basis. Yes, there are certain regulatory requirements which are supposed to be met. So as early as it becomes like mandated by regulation, yes, lot of things will get in. Whatever is there, part is mandated by regulation and part is mandated by reputation. To maintain reputation, you follow those safety standards and all. So best practices come out of that.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. We would like to take this discussion more, but the time for today's session is almost, we are close now. Mr. Vineet, may I please request you to make a closing statement for today's session?
I mean, it's always enlightening to to discuss on various areas of interest, especially on operation and maintenance side with our co-panelists and listening to their perspective. So I think we all agree that safety is critical for survival. It's critical for our reputation as a industrial citizen of the country. And Indian power stations have done a lot over the period. They have set some very good benchmarks in due course, but still there is a need for even bettering that. Cost definitely is a critical factor. There are market drivers which decide that whether you can generate your power at a lower cost of generation, and sometimes it conflicts to the safety objectives. But in the long term, what I see, if your plant is safe, if you have a reputation of a efficient energy generator, and then it's been seen by the society, then you have a much longer run and higher profitability. So that's my final submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vineet. Thank you all panelists for sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us and for this knowledgeable session. It's time for the closing of today's Power Talk. I request Riya to take it forward.
Thank you, Megha. Thank you, panelists, for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's topic, maintenance strategies to improve power plant safety. We hope you have enjoyed it. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Sanjeev Prasad, Mr. Subrata Das, and Mr. Vineet Priyadarshi. For viewers who have joined us today, we would like to have your feedback and encourage you to stay connected with us via our social media handles. APR Magazine is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also download our app from Google Play and App Store. We would also request our viewers to stay tuned for future interactions. With that, today's interaction has now come to a close. Thank you and goodbye.